Well, I mean, I think the first thing is not beating yourself up for it. I think it's easy to be like, I'm so indecisive. Fuck me. Like, that's not the solution. The solution
My
is
morning routine. Thanks for calling
exactly.
me
Like, big fan of mindfulness, clearly.
Yes, I mean, well, that's what you do for a living. Are you ready for no bullshit and a new mindset? Well, you came to the right place. Thanks to my next guest, Case Kenny. Case is the host of the podcast New Mindset Who Dis, which has millions of downloads, may I add. Case has really made a name for himself as a prominent independent podcaster and a mindfulness thought leader. He also considers himself a dude bro guy who likes to work out, maybe some Chipotle gains, talk about his feelings, and we talk about feelings. Case shares with me the healthy side to ego and how that leads to swag. So big swag alert over here. Confidence is booming, business is booming, and also the importance of staying true to yourself. Case shares how that has really shaped his brand and made it so successful. Case teaches me how to break down any problem or anxious feeling. I'm a big overthinker, so if you run into that same issue, Case breaks it down. I'm telling you, nothing is off limits. Okay, I've said enough. Let's get into the episode. We've covered a lot. He answers hinge prompts. This was so much fun. Please enjoy Case Kenny. Well, hello, my friend, Case Kenny. That's how you open most of your podcasts.
That's my line.
Yeah, I know. I thought I would just borrow it for this one.
Please. What's mine is yours.
I reached out to you via email, and that was honestly just out of a stretch for me. I'm like, I don't know if he'll even respond. And then what do you know? You respond to my question, and my jaw drops. So thank you so much for answering my question and being willing to come on my podcast. And truly, this is a dream. For a Chicago girl, this is a dream for me, Case.
Wow. Thank you. I'm happy to be here. This is great.
So Case, I've been listening to you for the past year. New Mindset Who Dis. My sister Madeline actually got me onto you. She's like,
wow.
This podcast, it's like a daily uplifting, kind of gets you in your feels. But truly this weekend, I listened to you, but then this weekend was like on another level. It was like your voice is ingrained in my brain. So
God bless. That's a lot. I apologize for that.
No, I absolutely loved it. It was like the mindset I needed before this. Your mindset does change. So there's so much I want to go into with you. This podcast, your career trajectory. But before starting your podcast, you also became an author, recording artist. You worked at Applebee's. So
whoa. Yes. Yep.
Was the last time you've been to Applebee's your last shift?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I was probably 19. That was when I was 19, yeah.
One of your first media agencies you worked for was, really well respected, but that you made more in your summers at Applebee's than you did at that first year at that job. And so it almost is just looking back, do you say, wow, Applebee's, thank you, shout out, let me go get that 2 for 2 or 2 for 20 dinner?
2 for 20, yeah.
I had it. Okay, I'm embarrassed to admit I did have that a month ago on a road trip. It was good.
Applebee's kind of slaps still. Like I joke a lot about it, but Applebee's is great. The 2 for 20 quesadilla burgers. Where else can you go and get a quesadilla and a burger?
Right. Nowhere
great.
but Applebee's.
Nowhere. I think that comment about money and finances, that's just a reflection of how little you make in advertising when you first go into it. It's just, they just don't pay well. But I was good at waiting tables, so maybe that it was a reflection of how good I was at it. I look back on it fondly. I still got my Applebee's family there, so that was so long ago.
You're gonna need to go back. Was that back in Virginia then when you worked at Applebee's? That's where you grew up?
Yeah.
So you're born in Chicago though. And so then you go to Virginia, you come back to Chi. What is your, connection in a sense? How did your family start in Chicago? I'm just intrigued because I'm from the western suburb, Downers Grove.
Most of my family was born here. My parents were both born here. My grandparents were born here. When I was 2, they decided to, let's get a fresh start out of the city, and they chose Charlottesville, Virginia, which at the time was like ranked in like one of those top places to live in America rankings, and it's a great town. So they moved there, went to school there. Then I went to Notre Dame, and anyone who goes to Notre Dame, like strong Chicago connection to Notre Dame, and it was just easy to get a job from Notre Dame in Chicago. So I'll come back home. And I did. And I still have family here. Like I've got cousins who live here. My grandparents, before they passed, they live here. So it was like an easy journey for me to take logically.
Oh, my last name's Doherty. ND, go Irish all the way. We have those Chicago, ND roots for sure.
Go Irish, yeah.
Oh, have you been to Broken Barrel in Chicago? That's Notre Dame bar.
I've kind of fallen off the Notre Dame bandwagon, like for game watches and whatnot. I'm diehard Notre Dame for sure. Like my dad went there, my dad's dad went there. My grandfather was Angelo Bertelli's roommate, the first Heisman Trophy winner. Like I've got a lot of connection there.
You got roots.
Yeah, we got roots, but I'm like a bad Notre Dame fan now. Like I still watch all the games, but I'm not like rah Notre Dame anymore. I'm curious what the like ND bars are in Chicago. I just have no idea.
The only one I know is Broken Barrel, and that's because my cousins who are huge ND, that's where we'll meet and hang out. So cool. Yeah, I got cousins in Chicago too. So I guess we got to do a little cousin link up at Broken Barrel for an ND game. Yeah. So in 2014, when you were grinding on your blog Pursuit, you chose to believe in the law of attraction and the faith that something is possible. And I'm a huge believer in law of attraction, Case. My sister and I, my cousins were always like, the universe, like we manifest everything we can. So listening to that episode, I was just like, oh, I think Case said this was for Taylor Doherty. So what did you choose to believe in yourself then, back in 2014 when you were starting, that has come true now, 7 years later?
Yeah, that's a good question. Probably a lot of different things. I mean, yeah, so like the episode you're referring to, I talk a lot about the law of attraction and how the law of attraction isn't about what you want, it's about what you believe in, right? It's like the secret manifesting. People are all in on it, but I feel like a lot of people are all in on it for the right reasons. They're like, I'm just going to keep picturing that corner office. I'm going to keep picturing the perfect body. I'm going to keep picturing, the contract with the talent agency, whatever that they want. And like, that's part of it for sure. You've got to be able to visualize literally what you want and where you want to go, but it's not nearly as powerful as knowing what you believe in. Like, what are the values, the forces, the influences behind what you want? And for me, it's always been just like a really strong belief in honesty and like character-driven content. The things that I believe in are like relatability. It could have been easy for me to be like, I want to be a top podcaster and then just like obsess over the vision of what that looks like. But instead for me, it was like my vision of the law of attraction was like, I believe in the power of honesty, of being someone who's not trying to be anyone other than who they are. I mean, you see so many people try to make it online and they'll do anything to become relevant and popular. And I really didn't believe in that. And maybe that's why it kind of took me longer to take off. But I really believed in the power of honesty. And then like the law of attraction there in my mind was I started to spot other successful people, podcasters, writers, entrepreneurs who built their businesses on that concept. And just like the law of attraction in my mind was I just saw it more often. I saw it as validation that I was on the right path, and it gave me that motivation to continue doing what I was doing. And I think ultimately that paid off because I mean, that's my platform. It's like, I believe in the power of honest perspectives, and like I built a business around that and I built a brand around that. And I think that is what I attracted. I attracted it in the sense of attracting examples of people who lived by that and grew by that. And that just encouraged me to keep doing this because I've been doing this since 2014 and it's very easy to give up after 4, 5, 6, 7 years. But I didn't. And I think I owe that to being stubborn, but also the law of attraction in a sense. I kept attracting examples of people who had proven that is something that you can stand on and build a platform on. So it still stands true for me. Like I'm very stubborn in that sense, and I'll never like give up on that idea.
That is what's so important, like you said, to your brand. And that was actually the advice you gave me when I was asking you how to build an audience, how to engage. And you were saying it's all about, people come back for you, your mannerisms, your personality. I really took that to heart because there's so many podcasts. Seriously, it's so saturated. Do you ever, you started back in 2018 with the podcast thing. And this is honestly just a little side tip that I'm thinking of as we're talking about podcasts being saturated. Does it ever frustrate you a little bit? And I'm new to the game and I wouldn't even call it a game. I'm kind of in like the warm-up phase.
Warm-ups, yeah.
There's a new celebrity every day who already has a platform getting all these, listeners.
Yeah, it's super tough. I mean, becoming a successful podcaster is probably the hardest channel to become successful on. It really is, because just intrinsically, there's really no way to be discovered. And there isn't, unless you're a celebrity and you've got a built-in platform, unless you're a famous YouTuber and have built-in subscribers, unless you're a TikTok influencer, there's no way to get discovered because the apps just don't lend to it. Apple Podcasts, like you're not going to get discovered unless you chart, and it's difficult to chart and so on and so forth. So it's like really, really difficult. So every time
you chart,
yeah, but
you're like, who knew mindset, who dis?
Yeah, but yes, of course. I'm in a very privileged position and I'm extremely grateful. but I mean, I've busted my tail to get here. I've put in
Mm-hmm.
3 years worth of episodes twice a week, and I create content that I think is helpful, and it is, and so on and so forth. But yeah, I mean, it's very tough. And every time I see like someone, like a celebrity, come on and they're like, my new podcast, I'm like, well, I'll see you in 12 months, and you're not going to do it anymore, because they're going to have a quick hit of success, and then it's gonna go away, because it's very tough to like stay relevant. It's tough to build an audience. Like it's very tough. I mean, I don't say that to like discourage anyone from trying, but like you've got to have commitment to it. Like you've got to really want it, and you've got to find a creative way to get it, because it is tough.
And it
Podcasting
almost
needs to
excites me
develop.
too. And like it doesn't discourage me in a way. It's almost like hearing you say all that is like, it makes at the end, if you do get to where you are, like you today, being so successful with your podcast with millions of downloads, it almost makes it more rewarding because of the challenge. So, that's kind of, good to look forward to. Another law of attraction over here.
Absolutely. I mean, I talk a lot about a lot. Like I feel sometimes I have a little bit of a chip on my shoulder. Like I'm like really proud of what I've done. Like of all the my podcast today, I'd probably check it. I think it's number 16 or 17 on the health charts. Like you go and look at the other 15 ahead of me, they're all people repped by media companies. They're owned by media companies. I'm the only independent podcaster on there. And I've had so many offers. Spotify tried to buy my podcast a long time ago, and I said no. And I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the fact that I created this from nothing. And then I'm also proud of the fact that like I also I like to talk, and I also built it on the fact that I don't have guests on the podcast. So like I know I built this from the ground up, and it's like a cool sense of pride to build something from zero to what it is. But I think anyone's capable of that, like leaning into your strengths, leaning into what you're good at, and then just having like an incredible sense of stubbornness to continue to do it over and over and over again.
I mean, I'm gonna have to drink whatever you're drinking in the morning, because I'm gonna need more of that stubbornness, because there's definitely times where it can be discouraging, but fun road ahead. It sounds like
You can do it. I believe in you.
When you were talking earlier about the kind of influencer marketing too, one of your first social media posts I was really intrigued by, because you were talking about how people on Facebook or any social media, when they're like, oh, on the weekends I make 100K a month, or like on my side hustle, and you were like, this is basically bullshit. You were just calling it straight up. And I was so interested by that, because you said it's all about hard work. Like there's no shortcuts. So, and it was also funny how you said that people who, you said something about those people who are like, trying to get money, to teach them their best tips. Why do they need that money if they're making 100K a month?
Oh man, you're going to trigger me with these kinds of conversations. And it's funny. You must have my graphic designer was just here. We're just working on some stuff, and I was just kind of complaining to him in a sense of like, there is no such thing as passive income, and there's no such thing as overnight success anymore. Like there are a couple, but those are the only ones you hear about. Like to build a business, to be a successful influencer, I don't like that title, but someone who has
dude bro guy
online, to be a successful dude bro guy, like it is nothing. It is not overnight at all. And it's going to take so long, and it is incredibly difficult, but it's so worth it. It's amazing. I wouldn't give up this journey for anything, but I've been trying to quote make money online since 2014. And I really didn't make money online until 2018. And it would have been so easy to throw in the towel there. But I didn't, and give that credit to stubbornness, whatever you want. But yeah, I mean, it's very difficult, and you should never look at someone else's success and think that's what you should do. Like that is going to drive you crazy. Like find your own timetable, and it'll be worth it no matter what. And I'm like looking at my wall right here, and I have a picture on there that I actually designed. It's a canvas that I designed years ago.
Is that the Chicago skyline?
It is. Yeah. It says views on it.
Very cool.
I started a company selling like motivational art pieces, and it tanked. I sold two, and I still love it though. I made no money, but I mean, I have countless stories of that where like I tried to do things and didn't work, but eventually here we are, and now I give dating advice. So there's always a way.
Being single is your superpower. We're going to get into that. But I think that's really impactful. I mean, also, I feel like this is just perfect for me. Like I'm sitting here, like I'm writing notes.
I say that to encourage you to stay in your own lane and figure out what is right for you. Because I mean, it is incredible how many different ways you could become successful, how many different ways you can make money online. I mean, the joke that I joke is I make money from sharing my feelings, which is insanely hilarious to me. And I never would have thought of that 5 years ago when I was trying to make money in different ways. And again, the North Star shouldn't be how do I make money, but that's the practical reality of making impact. You should make money from impact, but your first challenge should be how do I make an impact, and then you should make money from it, not the other way around. And I could talk all day about entrepreneurship, but I think it's don't compare yourself to other people and in the way that they're successful. You don't have to copy their blueprint to establish your own. You could borrow from it, you could be inspired by it, but like you shouldn't put yourself in a corner when you're like, I haven't figured out how they did it yet. Like that's not the right way to go about it.
And I think I'll have to have you on again just for an entrepreneur episode. Maybe we can just do Case Kenny all about being an entrepreneur. Are you down?
Yeah, I mean,
2 weeks, I'll book you.
I'm for it. I love talking about that stuff. If I could be helpful there, because I've learned a lot, and it's been really cool. And
well, I just feel like so many people my age too. I'm 23, and I feel like everyone is either has a corporate job or has a side hustle or has something that they are either thinking about doing. So I think it's just always interesting to hear a perspective from someone who's done it. So, not the, celebrities. It's like, well, I'm already, here's my book. It's like, well, how did you get there? Like when you were 21, like in Hollywood. Yeah. I don't know. I just feel like those stories are more interesting to me. And that's kind of why I started doing this.
Yeah, me too. I'm big time inspired by those kinds of stories rather than the huge Forbes headlines. Because that's not real.
Clickbait.
It's real, but it's by far the exception. But there's tens of thousands of people who are creative, successful side hustlers. I know dozens of people who have 6-figure side businesses. I know dozens of people who started a business from zero and it's 8 figures. Like those are the cool stories, to your point. Like those are the stories that motivate, not the Forbes, not the, those kinds of deals. So yeah, finding the relatable stories are what are really going to give you energy when you're doubting yourself.
Well, and that's you too, like how I kind of talked about earlier. You are relatable in that way. And like how you just engage with your audience. I think, my iCloud just came up. So really quickly, we got to take a quick pause. That's AKA, that's karma for me, going into your karma episode for me never dealing with my storage. So.
Ooh, yeah, that'll get you.
Okay, we're good. And you always say life's about making a choice. That's kind of like there's always going to be a choice involved.
Again, dude, bro guy, normal guy, like I'm super impatient. I get angry easily, I would say, but I'm like very quick to pivot myself out of it because I'm quick to realize that there is a choice there and you don't have to always choose the one that you went with to start. Like you can pivot away from it, no shame, and be happier as a result.
Case, I'm so impatient. I would have to agree with you. What do you do to practice patience? Because I need some help over here.
I don't know. I feel like I don't have the answer because I've always been impatient and I still am. It's weird though. Like I'm very impatient towards little things. Like I want to get this done. I want to post this. I want to do this. I want to roll out with this, whatever. But then I'm very patient towards the big things. Like how is that going to move my business forward? How can I make more impact? So I think I don't think it's necessarily bad to be impatient towards little things. I think that's a good quality. Sometimes people are way too patient. And I think that, you got to think bigger. But I don't know. I think you gotta find balance. Like, some people are just wired to be impatient. I mean, I'm sure there's things out there and you take 10 deep breaths, do some gratitude, whatever. But in my mind, it's like, okay, I am impatient in this moment, but I'm patient towards this larger moment. And that balance kind of cancels out in a sense. That would be what I would say. I don't know. That's like not great advice because I'm just super impatient. There's no way around it. Like elevators, sidewalks, stoplights, like I'm
driving. I think you said you hate driving and like doing all that.
Yeah,
but almost like
out of control.
You just admitting and saying that you're impatient is almost just great advice to people who listen to New Mindset Who Dis, because you speak about mindfulness and all of these like best practices, and to know that Case Kenny is actually pretty impatient. Hey, I think sometimes it can be a little impatient here and there. We're all human.
Yeah, I can publish a whole list of things that are wrong with me. Like, there's way more than just being impatient. Yeah,
the rest of the episode will be your flaws. Just start rolling them out. Here we go.
Yeah, that'll be one of the longer episodes. Most of my episodes are like 20 minutes. That'll be like the hour-long special.
I saw that you started talking about relationships on, was it episode 69 or 169?
69, of course, 69.
So was that just you bringing back some old memories as a teenager? Just, no.
Yeah, not you.
69
every quite the
You
teenage
back then.
years.
Yeah, wow,
Yeah.
pretty progressive.
Yeah.
No, but just being, immature and thinking like, oh, I'm gonna release this on episode 69.
Yeah. I mean, because I'm also very immature and I thought it was hilarious and I still think it's hilarious. Like
No,
what better way?
it's awesome.
Yeah. No, of course.
That's great. Kind of shifting back to when you started Pursue, you said in your first episode, like I said, it's going to be a highlight reel of, New Mindset Who Dis, because I'm a loyal listener.
Thank you.
So anyone listening, I'll do a quick plug. Subscribe to New Mindset Who Dis.
Thank you.
You need to have swag. And I know it's your first one, but I had to bring it back because I just feel like it really resonated with me. And it's just, that having swag and confidence really led you into your future endeavors because you expected more from yourself, which made it a reality. And so this question's a two-parter. What expectations do you set for yourself?
Yeah. Well, for one, I don't even remember that episode, to be honest. I like black out and do these things. So I have no idea what I said in that episode. So I would think regarding having some swag and expectations, like my whole thing is the idea of like the power of ego. And it goes alongside of swag. Like most people think that ego is this horrible thing. And like one of the books that I really like is this book, Ego's the Enemy by Ryan Holiday. And it's the whole thing about how the ego is horrible and it does all this and that. And I agree with that, of course. Ego is what leads people to think they're better than other people and to act out of selfishness. But I think there's a really healthy side to ego that does give you a little bit of swag, that does give you a little bit of chip on your shoulder. And it's what enables you to set powerful expectations for yourself. Not necessarily specific expectations, but ones that are led by swag. And it's just like your ego simply says that you can do anything, you can achieve anything. And the reason is because you can handle any outcome. And like, that is the power of ego. And that is why it's like, you're free then to date whoever you want, to ask anyone you want out, to send any email you want, to go out there and start any business you want, not because you think you're destined to be great and wealthy and successful and date the hottest, coolest, most people, greatest people in the world, but because if they say no, if you fail, if you whatever, you're going to be fine. Like that is the power of ego. It's the confidence that you are okay with any outcome that's thrown your way. So for me, like to your question about setting expectations, it's like my expectation is that I'm going to be okay with any outcome, no matter what. Anytime I hit record, anytime I hit publish, anytime I order 200,000 new journals from my publishing company, it's a lot of money. I'm going to be okay no matter the outcome. If I don't sell any of them, I sell all of them. Like that is the power of like swag, a little bit of confidence, and the power of ego. So that's what I would say to that.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned ego because you did share that you have an ego and that sometimes you can kind of feel unsure, and want to prove something to other people, which I think everyone has that in them. Everyone wants to prove something.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And so my question would be, have your expectations for yourself ever changed based on other people's opinions or their expectations?
I would absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I would be lying if I said no. I'd say, yeah. I mean, I think for a long time, I kind of held back, particularly in this space. It's like, I don't know, like growing, like in my 20s, like, friends, people I worked with, the public in general, like being someone who shares his feelings for a living, it's a little effeminate. Like it's a little too feely. Like I used to be kind of self-conscious about that. And I would kind of adjust my expectations. Like people would ask me what I'm doing. I'm like, it's just something I do for fun. I don't take it seriously. When in reality, I really wanted to take it seriously. I wanted to be the biggest, the baddest, the best at it in the world. But I didn't want to admit that because, it was a vulnerable thing to admit. Like 3 years ago, I kind of I was like, forget it. Like, I'm just going to put gas in a tank and go and set an expectation for myself where that I do want to take it seriously. Why am I acting like I'm not taking it seriously? Like, so what, I post inspirational quotes on Instagram. So what, a lot of my pictures are colorful and have pink and like things like that. It's like, forget other people's opinions and their expectations. Like I just needed to make that decision. And it was kind of tough because it's a vulnerable position to be in, but like, it definitely allowed me to increase my expectations of myself rather than decrease. I can't think of really any instances where I was like, their opinion makes me lessen my expectations for myself. It was kind of evolving from realizing that I was allowing them to have space in my head rent free and judging me when the reality was they probably likely didn't. And if they did, they're not my people whatsoever. So I kind of just flipped a switch and I was like, I'm going to go all in on this. And that definitely paid off, certainly. So I'm glad I did that.
Indeed.
Yeah, definitely. So,
But that's definitely, I would relate to that too, because I feel like when you start anything, a job or a podcast, like for me doing this, I definitely at first was like, they're going to be like, oh, who does Taylor Doherty think she is? You know, getting up there
same thing.
and even reach out to people. And I think like what you said, like not letting other people in my like way I thought of it was like being in control of my happiness. And I'm just giving it to them. Like why care what other people think? So you saying like that you felt like that in the beginning makes me feel better. Like I saw that guy who on Instagram who holds up like that sign and it like always changes like the phrase.
Do with the sign,
And yes, okay, that's what it is. Do with the sign. I had one that said, "Not everyone has to have a podcast," and I saw a bunch of people liking this, like that I knew.
So, I didn't like that post.
I did not either.
I didn't like that one at all. Like my whole thing, and I talk a lot about this. It's like I was on Girls Gotta Eat the other month, whatever, big podcast.
Oh, I listened to that. I love their podcast.
Yeah, they're amazing. I actually owe them a lot. Like that blew me up. So I owe them a lot. Raina and Ashley, thank you. Their first question that they always ask is like, why should people listen to you? Like, why are you here? Like, who are you? Like, why should anyone care? And in retrospect, I didn't have a great answer live because I was like, I didn't know what I was getting into with those girls, by the way. Like, they're crazy and they're awesome. I thought I was walking into like a ho-hum, like, let's talk kind of thing.
I thought it was going to be more, I think that they almost, like, I thought they were going to be more sexual with you, to be honest, and like talk about more because like their thing is sex. That's kind of part of their brand.
I know.
So I was getting ready for this. I'm like, what are they going to ask? But I guess I brought up 69, like unintentional, like, you know, so what, you know, you never know what you're getting into.
Well, I don't know if they cut the part, but we ended up talking about hand jobs for a little bit on it. They might have cut that from it.
No, that was in there. And you said that you think they're underrated.
Yeah. I didn't even listen to the episode because I was like, not embarrassed, but it's like, that's not my brand. Like I don't go on live shows and talk about it. Anyway, but I could go down that rabbit hole. But yeah, their question about why should anyone listen to you? I didn't have a great answer there, but it's the same answer I would give anyone who is feeling self-conscious about starting something. Why should people listen to me? I'm just blah, blah, blah. It's like, there's no quantifiable way to say that your advice is good and your advice isn't. That's why I think the whole idea of experts is just complete baloney. My like test for whether or not anyone should listen to me, like why should anyone listen to you, Case, about dating advice? You're a single guy in your 30s. Like clearly you haven't been successful. Like what is the reflection of success in dating? Like most people would be like, oh, marriage with kids and a happy marriage. I was like, that is not it. The reflection of success in dating is that as you're dating, you're happy doing it. That's what I think it is. And if I can impart that same mindset to someone else and help them be happy as they're dating, then that's valuable. And it's the same to anyone who has something that they want to create or start or talk about. It's like they're like, other than maybe like financial planning or something very specific, it's like if your advice helps make someone happier, more fulfilled, or more effective as they're journeying towards an end, then there is merit behind their words. So that's why like anyone should be absolutely free to create, to share, to do whatever, and to do it without feeling insecure about it. People are just haters. People are always going to hate, and that's always going to be the reality. And so what if someone wants to start a podcast, have at it. But I think there's always value behind people's perspective, and sometimes we don't realize that. Sometimes we discount our own perspective. You could be 18 years old and giving dating advice. You might be young and not have a lot of it, but you might have something valuable to share. And if
you might have more opinions on hand jobs.
When you're 18, probably.
This episode, this is so not on brand for me either, but I think it's kind of fun. Gosh, I'm throwing it in where I can.
The hand jobs roll.
Thank you, Raina and Ashley. Yeah.
There you go.
But it is true, like the whole swag thing, like not caring what people think. The way you put it too was so insightful to me. It was like, why don't walk into a room wondering if people are gonna like you. Walk in wondering, am I gonna like them? And I was like, swag alert. Like, seriously, I should walk in every room and be like, well, do I actually want to be your friend? Like, maybe not. And then just like, that is what it is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's the soundbite. Thanks for bringing that up. That's my favorght one. That's how long ago that episode was. I like forgot about it. Yeah, I mean, that's powerful, right?
I told you, I listen.
Thank you. Yeah, wow. I don't even remember what I talk about. That's how crazy it is. But yeah, I mean, that's a good one too. I mean, that's not saying you're better than anyone. It's saying that you don't have to let anyone in your head unless you want to. And that's the fact. Like, you don't have to be friends with everyone. You don't have to satisfy everyone. Like, you can break expectations. I talk a lot about disappointing people on the podcast and why I think it's so powerful, not in like a vindictive, mean, selfish way, but as a reflection of your growth. I mean, those are the facts. Like, those are like receipts for your growth, is when you disappoint someone, because that means like you stayed true to yourself. You said no when they expected yes, things like that. And like that whole idea of walking in the room and making your own choice about which way to go, making your own choice about who deserves your energy, like that's a big vibe, because oftentimes we don't take the time to consider that. We just act based on what we think is right, what we think is expected of us. And that's fine. You live a happy life that way, but I think you live a much happier, more fulfilled life if you take the time to be more self-aware, practice mindfulness. So obviously all about it.
It seriously is such a vibe because it just makes you like just be you. Like who are you trying to impress? And I'm gonna walk into a room and just rock it. So thank
Yeah.
you for that
How are
line.
you? Yeah, heck yeah.
As confident and swaggy as someone can be, I believe everyone though can relate to overthinking. I am the biggest overthinker. I 1,000% resonated when you said that before you go to sleep, your mind creates a highlight reel of all of the awkward moments in the past 10 years of your life. And it's like that meme or that video on TikTok. You're like,
Yeah.
And
Oh
it's
yeah.
so true. It happens to everyone. Like, it's just like, why does your mind do that? And I'm like, just go to bed, go to bed.
Yeah. It's a great question. I don't know. Probably
So
because we're
you don't
human
know the
and we
mind,
just like
okay?
we make ourselves do that. It's crazy.
But you said that, what you do with your thoughts is up to you. It's almost like it's back to your choice. And you have said that you advise your negative thoughts to frankly shut up.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm big.
I dig it.
Again, I have no idea what I said in this episode, so hit me with the soundbite if there's a good one. But I mean, in my mind, it's like I respond really well to like aggressive self-talk, like literally telling myself, "Case, stop. Like, why are you revisiting this? Why are you playing this back? Why are you going to the immediate negative? Like, why are you overthinking things?" I respond really well to that, and like that's not a cure-all for everyone, but I think the times where we overthink are times where we let ourselves overthink. It's where we don't take the time to ask ourselves why. Like, why are we overthinking? Talk a lot about the power of why. I think we could break down any problem, any overthinking, any anxiety by asking ourselves why, answering it, and then why again, answering it, until you get to the bottom of something that you can address. The thing with overthinking is you're overthinking the surface of a problem and you're not getting to the heart of it, and you just like hang out here, whereas the reality is your solutions lie here. But if you don't practice self-awareness, the power of why, you just hang out here. You got to get there lower. And I think that all comes down to self-awareness. Like I like broken record alert, but like I think self-awareness is the solution to literally everything in life. Everything. Dating, business, self-development. Like the more self-aware you are, the more you know why you do the things you do, the more you know what you deserve, the more you can connect with people who recognize that, similarly minded people. Like it's everything. So not like a very specific answer around overthinking, but I mean, that's certainly the foundation for whatever practices you want to implement towards it.
No, I'm a huge third person talker too. Like sometimes I'm just like in the mirror, and one of my guests actually does positive affirmations that I've taught. And so like I did those positive affirmations and it does shine through. Like it just makes you start your day in such a better note. And I can't agree more. Like I'm always like, Taylor, like that was in 7th grade. Like nobody even remembers that. Like, you fell in the hallway or whatever. It's like everything just comes back to you, and it's like the worst feeling. And I'm sure other people are just like, overthink everything too. But I'm curious, how do you differentiate when you tell your negative thoughts to shut up versus when you choose them to kind of absorb and grow as a person?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's ever healthy to like ignore negative thoughts. Like they're useful. Like they're extremely useful. Like it's useful to listen to a thought that says you're not good enough. Like because then you could dive into that, understand why you're thinking that, and that's going to get at the core of like what you're insecure about. You can't get over an insecurity unless you know what the insecurity is, right? You can't get over fear of commitment in dating unless you know that's what you're actually afraid of, instead of saying that they're not good enough for you. Like humans are weird. Like we're biologically evolved to adapt to situations to hurt ourselves the least. So like, and again, I just made that up on the spot. That sounds scientific. I have no idea if that's true, but
dude,
like,
bro guy at it again.
Yeah, it sounds good, right?
Yes.
Like we don't want to hurt ourselves, and there's easy ways out and there's hard ways out, but the path to growth is through the hard way, and it sucks sometimes. And that's why I'm big on journaling. Like journaling is like a safe space to like actually take what's in your head that you might be hiding from and put it on paper so you can actually address it. There's layers of truth to ourselves, and we oftentimes choose the easier ones over the hard ones. So I think it's necessary to listen to those negative thoughts and address them. And if they keep coming back, be like, yo, I already addressed this, like we're moving on. And that's powerful, but you can't just ignore them completely. You can't ignore your problems. in any sense. It's going to come back to bite you. And it's fine to have them. Like, it's nothing to be ashamed about. It's never a point of shame to have baggage from an old relationship, to have insecurities from being rejected, from failing. Like, that's fine. And it's great. But you've got to be able to look them in the face, and you've got to have an enthusiasm to learn from them and to heal from them and to create closure from them. Like, otherwise, yeah, you're going to be lugging around all this stuff with you that has no business being there. And I think step one is self-awareness. And then, choosing what to do with it, what you will from there.
Seriously, I feel like each situation, it goes back to your foundation, which again is what we talked about, what makes your brand, so makes it work. So it really is true, just making that choice. And what is the point of this episode? You said that you get all jazzed, and talking about life, and basically you simplified that life is here for life. Like, you don't need to overcomplicate it and wonder, where am I going to go? Like, what's this going to do for me? Just, you're here to enjoy life. And I tend to overthink, like I talked about my podcast, where my career is going to go, everything. And I've started to kind of recently be more present and kind of enjoy the ride before it's over, essentially. Like, what's the fun of any of it if you're just, thinking about the next thing? And so I wonder, though, if you've had moments or experiences that didn't go as planned, or you overthinked and are now thankful that they didn't.
Yeah, I mean, every year in my 20s, I would say I had proof of that. I mean, you've seen those
indulge us.
It's like, have you seen those commercials though, where it's like you become your parents? It's like,
I am my mom.
Like, I've become my parents. I've become my parents' generation. It's like, I would look to you, Taylor, and I'd be like, you're young as fuck. Like, to pressure yourself to have things figured out now is just the most ludicrous expectation of yourself. It really is. And I'm so self-aware, and that's absurd coming from me, because in my 20s, I was obsessed with figuring out what's next. Like, I need to date, I need to do this, I need to build this. And it's like, only now have I realized that there is zero pressure. And it is so much more freeing, and it enables you to be so much more in the moment by freeing yourself of whatever bullshit timelines you've assumed are correct, and that yours is incorrect, and that you need to catch up, and so on and so forth. So, I'm big on this idea of, one door closes, another door open. That's simply a choice. That is simply a choice for me. I'm also really big on the idea of, you can't connect the dots looking forward. I think that's a Steve Jobs quote. You can only connect them looking back. But the reality of life is, you don't have enough dots to connect until you're older, until you have more experience, until you've experienced more rejection, failure, left turns when you wanted to go right, and so on and so forth. So it's like, there's so many instances looking back in my 20s, I was like, man, at the time that dot really hurt, or I didn't want that dot, or I expected a different dot, but that's what I'm given. And now I can connect it looking back. And that's the only way. So to expect yourself to figure things out looking forward is like such a fool's errand. You literally can't. You can only figure things out looking back. You could set visions for yourself. You could work hard to move towards where you want to go and what you think is right for you, but you don't know until you get there and experience something else, and then pivot. Like, I'm also big on this idea of, you don't know what you deserve until you've experienced what you don't deserve. You don't know what you want until you've experienced what you don't want. Dating, life, business, everything. So like, there's so many opportunities to take advantage of that, and they're all going to be painful. They're all going to be painful or frustrating. But there's so much value in it. And it's hindsight's always 20/20. It's always easier to look back than it is in the present. But like, proof is in the pudding. Like, I used to be literally like that mindset of racing, trying to figure things out, pressuring myself to have it figured out, knowing exactly what I wanted. But I mean, it's just not true. So take that advice for what it is. But
no,
I
I'm
mean,
absorbing that to like in my pores. I'm like, just don't stress, don't worry, because to see you, like you said, like, you didn't know you were going to be talking about your feelings and starting a podcast about this and practicing mindfulness. So I think it really does show that you don't know where your life can take you, and just to get, like I always kind of say, just get on the ride and see where it goes. So thank you. I will definitely be taking note of that.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it's a freeing mindset. And again, I understand that biologically it's different for men and women. I also went through puberty when I was like 30. I was such a late bloomer. Like, it was as a joke, but it's so much easier for me.
I was like, oh, wow. Also, something you got to learn about me, Case, I'm very, very gullible. So I'm like, oh, is that a thing?
No. I just joke. I was a late bloomer in many senses. And so it's like easier for me to like, kind of just slow down the pressure on myself. But I still think it is something universally true that we put too much pressure on ourselves today. We'll figure it out tomorrow, and you need tomorrow to figure out today. You can't figure out today. You can only figure it out tomorrow. And I don't know, it's just peaceful for me to realize those kinds of things.
The whole, how you always bring up the asking yourself why, like that's honestly what helped me a lot from listening to your podcast is like, whenever I go to do something, or like you said, everything in life, you kind of just have to wonder, why am I doing this? And then just kind of start from there. So it really has helped me for my day to day. Like I said, I'm going to probably go to bed like thinking about your voice because it's literally ingrained in my brain at this point. So I kind of brought up your tagline earlier, but it's no fluff, no BS, just practical mindfulness. Ask my listeners to see if anyone had any questions. I always encourage them to make the podcast tailored to them. So I thought you can kind of give your no fluff, no BS to some of the TTU listeners.
Love that.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, we have Abby from Austin, and she wants to know your thoughts on hookup culture. Healthy or nah? Direct quote from Abby.
I'm curious. I wonder what hookup culture even is anymore. Is that just like I don't even know what that is anymore. Like just
probably like having sex, like with like one night stands.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I think it's fantastic. It's awesome. Have at it. Like
Abby.
yeah, Abby, get your freak on. Go girl. I don't understand this, like a stigma against certain things. Like I talk a lot about that. There's literally no right way to do anything in life. Specifically within dating, there's no right way to be single. There's no right way to be in a relationship. Just as much as I assume there's no right way to be married. It's all up to you. It's all, don't let the optics of what someone else is saying make you assume a certain truth. I mean, there's that quote that I always try to reference, and I always forget what the quote is, but it's something that's like, there are couples who dated for 10 years, got married, and then got divorced after a year. There's also couples who hooked up on the first night and now are married 15 years happily later. Like there's no right way to start a relationship. There's no right expectation for how long a relationship should last until you get married. There's no right expectations for, if you should meet someone on a dating app versus a pumpkin patch. Like who cares? It's like
pumpkin patch. What's on your mind?
Whatever. I always joke that people think meeting people on apps are lame. So I always say, what do you expect to meet them at a farmer's market or a pumpkin patch? It's like
out of a Hallmark movie.
I'm assuming that's where you meet people in life. I have no idea.
Go Abby.
Yeah,
get after it.
It's like, if you want to hook up and that's all you want to do, that's fantastic. Just lead with that as your intention. Don't lie to someone and say you want to marry them and you just want to hook up. That's what's wrong. But if you just want to hook up and they just want to hook up, have at it. That's fantastic. I see zero problems there.
So just make sure that everyone's on the same page. No one wants to, get a husband out of that, or a wife.
Yeah, that's where it becomes hurtful, where one person is leading the other person on. One person just wants, hand jobs or 69, and the person wants married. It's like, whatever,
Oh, we know. To a T. Hannah in New York City asked, if you had to pick which of your Instagram posts or advice has been the most inspiring to you, or received the most feedback from your audience?
There's one post that was just a freaking banger of a selfie of mine, but the caption was what was good about it. It was about not being alone. I remember writing that. I was this is gonna make me sound way cooler than I am, but I was on a bullet train in Japan, and I wrote that. And I was just really inspired by it, and then I wrote it.
Hey, don't downplay your coolness. We covered that in the first part. No downplaying.
I mean, I'm like retired cool. I'd say at one point I was cool. Like I was like Mr. Club in Chicago cool. I was in Japan. I was doing it. Retired from the cool life. But anyway, that post is really powerful to me. The power of realizing that you're not alone. And I know that's like the cheesiest thing in the world, but realizing that has a really powerful ability to snap you out of things. Like we put ourselves in a corner a lot, and that makes things way worse. Like when we think that we're the only ones who go through rejection, heartbreak, failure, you name it, insecurity, whatever. But I think the second you realize that so many people have been through the same thing, so many people are going through the same thing, and they freaking bossed up and they excelled through it. Like, I don't know, to me, that's really motivating. And it got like thousands of comments on that post, I remember. And I was really just proud of that, because that's my whole thing. Like someone asked me like why I do the podcast, and I can take that any direction, but like truthfully, like the reason I do it is I don't want anyone to ever feel alone in life in any sense, whether that's in business or in dating or in self-development or in feeling insecure or whatever it is, because you're never alone in feeling what you're feeling. The human experience is largely universal, and I think there's a sense of comfort and calm and motivation in it. So it was that post. Long-winded answer.
No, I mean, I think that's so true. Next question. Madeline in Chicago, this is my sister, wants to know if you could move anywhere besides Chicago, where would it be?
I mean, I'm going to move to LA at some point just for a little bit. Love it. I like it there, weather-wise and city-wise, and lots of people I know are out there. So yeah, I'll check that out at some point. But I mean, I feel like I'll always be drawn back to Chicago. Chicago is a special place.
Oh, it's the best. We love Shy. We have another Chicagoan. Katie said, single is your superpower, but are you available to date?
Yeah, I mean, I wrote that book from my own experience. So, I mean, pretty forthcoming with that.
I have that book here too, so we're going to get into that.
Nice.
So we talked about you're infamous for, your Instagram posts, whether it's a selfie, especially your Post-it notes, your coffee. It's almost like I'm experiencing Where's Waldo, Case Kenny version. Like every time you post something, I'm like, where is he in Chicago?
Yeah.
Like I'm trying to like pinpoint it myself.
Yep.
Have you ever written a Post-it note or said to yourself after writing it, nah, that actually might just, be BS. Let's start from scratch?
Oh yeah, all the time. But I've got a kind of a system now where it's like, if I write something and I really put intention into it and I really think it through, and then at the end of it, I start to second guess it, I usually think that that's a really powerful sign that I should post it. And those are far away, like the most popular ones. Like, for example, I released an episode last week on ghosting, wrote it, recorded it. And afterwards I was like, man, am I just like kind of making this all up and this isn't true? And I like really kind of dove into like the experiences that made me write that. And I was like, no, I still believe it. But I felt like really kind of unsure about it because I was like, is this bullshit? Is this like too hopeful thinking? And I posted it and it's like my most popular episode ever. Tons and tons and tons of people reaching out to me about it. So that's like my litmus test for like deciding if I should post something. If it makes me feel unsure about it, I should probably just do it.
And since, like you said, you go back from your experience, so nobody can come, like no science or whatever can come back to you and be like, no, it's not true. You could be like, well, it happened to me. So actually it is true. Or like, how you said, because I did listen to the episode, you said that you did ghost a girl at one point. Yeah. Tisk. Yeah. But I mean, it happens.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I'm upfront about that. Yeah. I mean, that's a good point. I mean, it's
Two
like
bro guy, no fuckboy guy.
Self-develop. I'm not proud of it. But we've all been there. But I mean, self-development, it's a not a great space, but it's like it all comes down to your own perspective and your own experiences, and you can't diminish someone else's perspective. So, but I try to speak as universally as possible. I don't want to pick one thing that happened to me and make big sweeping statements from it. But I'm glad I trusted myself and went forward with it, as opposed to like being unsure and being like, all right, I'm just not going to do it.
One that really resonated with me is that you said you don't have to be just one thing in your life. I'm doing air quotes for those who can't see us. Be spiritual and mindful, but also a freaking weird AF. Be vegan one day, but in and out the next. Be successful, but also an absolute goofball. You added a couple more like types of that. But I resonated with this because I really do work so hard to be accountable. Like I'll say something like, I'm going to do this tomorrow. And I try to be accountable for that. But I'm also very indecisive, Case. Like I can't even figure out what I'm ever going to order at a restaurant. I change my mind a lot. This podcast is the one thing that I've actually kind of followed through on in my life, so I'm very proud of that. But it really is, I changed my mind. So I'm wondering, what is your advice to balance accountability while also accepting that changing your mindset is a part of life?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the first thing is not beating yourself up for it. I think it's easy to be like, I'm so indecisive. Fuck me. Like, that's not the solution. The solution
my
is
morning routine. Thanks for calling me out.
I mean, I'm indecisive too, but I've learned to prioritize what is important. And in those instances of self-talk, it's like, Case, you are going to figure out a solution to this. This is one of those things we're not going to allow you to be indecisive about. So I think it's, to your point, clearly the podcast is important to you because it's one thing that you actually double down on and committed to. And that's great. And it's because you made that judgment call, whether you sat down and made that decision or not, but you did it. So I think you don't beat yourself up for it. You lean into it, and then you just create those priorities. And again, full circle, that comes down to self-awareness. You're not going to be able to do that unless you take the time to understand what's important to you, what you want, how you want to get there, and things like that. So all these things exist in your head before you even get to action. And I think action is obviously the great equalizer in life, but unless you're thinking things through, you're not going to get to that step. So again, big fan of mindfulness, clearly.
Yes. I mean, well, that's what you do for a living. So we hope you'd enjoy it. But it really, I mean, I selfishly had you on this podcast to kind of self-diagnose me and give me advice. So I'm really getting that today. So
Nice. Love that.
Something I'll kind of just share a few that I've realized some of my faults, because I noticed that we're both bad at counting. I know you shared that you're not good at math. Is that
Yeah,
something
horrible.
that, but you have an edge up because you do speak Chinese. So I always wonder like how there's certain things, you know, like you're not good at math, but you can speak one of the hardest languages.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't
how does
know.
that
I mean,
work?
I left brain, right brain,
Hmm.
smaller brain, big brain. I have no idea. I was dropped on my head a lot. Who knows? Lots of sports injuries. Who knows? And I just like wiped out that part of my brain. I don't know. Everyone is given a gift in life. I'm not saying my gift was languages, but I think everyone has things that they're good at and things that they're not good at. Like I talk a lot about, I think all like languages aside, I was oddly good at them. But like I think the gift that I was given is such an obscure gift, and it's not one that you would see on any menu of gifts available ever. And my gift was the ability to simplify things. It's a weird gift, but it's a gift. And sometimes we don't realize the gifts because we think gifts are being a great athlete, being a genius, being funny, being attractive, whatever. Those are few and far between. Those are the top people. Those are the people you hear in the headlines, but that's not real life. Real life people are given gifts that far transcend those things, and they're simple things. Like to say that my gift is to simplify things is so weird, but I've built a huge business out of it, and I built a successful podcast out of it. Like to say it's not a gift would be lying, and it's a huge gift. And I think sometimes we just need to realize that. And for all the things you're bad at, there's got to be at least one thing you're good at, and you just lean into that. That's the scales are very rarely in your favor. I think you're always going to be far worse at a longer list of things than good at things, right? And it's just about finding that one or two things that you're good at and leaning into it, and then practicing the heck out of it. I mean, the only reason I'm good at podcasting or decent at it, however you want to qualify it, is I've
Fantastic
done
at it.
300 episodes. Thank you. I've done 300 episodes. Let's practice. You want to talk about 10,000 hour rule, whatever, and whatever it is these days. There's proof in that for sure.
You're also an author. You've written some journals. We talked about that. I have a couple of them right here. Yeah. Shout out Annabeth. She actually is my good friend. She told me she had these, and I was like, oh my gosh, I literally was trying to get them in the shipping. So thank you. I will not write any of my personal journals, so I'll let her do that. But I did go through and think of my own answers and thought to myself, so I thought it'd be kind of fun. You say that the New Mindset Who Dis journal is all about question and answer. So I thought, why don't we, the two of us, question and answer?
Oh, love it. Okay.
And kind of go through. So from the New Mindset Who Dis, I love your branding too, by the way, the colors you choose, and I love that it's hard copy. I'm big on hard copy books.
Yeah, me too.
I won't go into the Kindle phase. I'm just like, I'm a good, like I like to hold it.
Yeah.
For the 2 books I read a year. So let's see here. I'm also like, just so you know, I'm a little bit nervous to answer these questions because as I was reading through, it really does take like, it can be kind of nerve wracking to kind of, like you said, sit down, put it on paper. Like I was typing it.
Yeah.
But it does make, it takes like a being in you.
Yeah. That's the point. That's great.
So
like
I'm being vulnerable. Here we go.
Nice.
What is something you want to manifest?
I mean, honestly, it's more impact. I mean, I talk a lot about, I want to be the biggest podcaster in the world, and I want to do it because it helps me, and I want to do it because it helps other people. And there's different elements that would go up into that. But I mean, that's my biggest thing that I'm trying to manifest is impact in any which way I can, whether it's through the podcast, journals, music, the coffee cup quotes, whatever it takes.
Mine was, so I said patient, but that's just like a part. I definitely want to be more patient. But I also would love to attract all of the New Mindset Who Dis podcast listeners for Tailored to You. So please and thank you. We're sending that out. We're manifesting it.
Love that.
They'll be coming.
Thank you.
I hope.
Thank you so much.
Let's see here. The next one is, what is one thing you want less of in your life?
Probably the pressure that I put on myself. I mean, to my point, I feel like even though everything I just talked about of, being patient with certain things, I still put a lot of pressure on myself to like create and to grow. And I'm like obsessed over a lot of different elements of the business and things like that, where there's really no reason to do that to myself. It's like, I'm doing great and I'm enjoying it. Like there's no reason to put that pressure on myself. So I think it's sometimes take a deep breath, less pressure, more presence, like to your point, just being present. So I'd say that, yeah, less pressure.
Less pressure is a good one. I was thinking at the time though, kind of what we talked about earlier, the overthinking, the negative and anxious thoughts, either telling them to shut up or take it in and grow from it. I feel like I'm thinking of like the night when I drank like too much UV blue and then was like, trying to get home and like the whole, like high school, like gross. That's like what I go back to. I don't know why. It's like a weird flashback. Yeah, no, very gross. Okay, we'll do one more. How would your friends, colleagues, family describe you?
I don't know, because like my friends just clown on me. So it's tough to come up with like serious, like answers that like make me sound good. I mean, they
You're
would
so
say,
caring, Case.
I
Like
know,
they're
it's
like
like my
telling
boys
you.
would never say that. They'd be like, shut up. Obviously, there's all nothing but love there, but that's how your friends treat you. I mean, they'd probably say the same thing. They definitely like hardworking, likes to talk. Successful, like I hate to say that, but like I don't know. My friends are like very supportive of what I've done. Maybe funny, maybe in certain instances, somewhere in there. I have to think about that. That's a good question. I should text like my group chat and then just see how hard I get roasted.
And then you should make an episode out of it. And be like,
I
what
should.
my friends
Oh,
think
man.
of me, and then have everyone else, and then maybe have me on, and we can talk about me. I don't know if guests, but just throwing it out there. I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to,
Shoot
throw my
your
hat in the
shot.
ring.
I like that idea. All right, I'm gonna put that on my list, my inspo list.
I'm ready to see it on your mood board. Just share it, your Pinterest page with me.
Okay.
I said it is hard though, because like it's hard to humbly answer this, but also like you hope what other people think about you. But I'd like to say people think I'm genuine, kind, trustworthy. I feel like people can trust me. Also, I thought I could use a phrase. I was thinking, good ass time. I feel like I'm fun, so I threw that one in there.
That's a good quality. Yeah.
Yeah, you always want to be with a good ass time.
Yes.
So I don't want to give away all of the helpful prompts that you've created to, shift mindsets. So to all the listeners, if you enjoyed this little question and answer, go ahead to newmindsetwhodis.com and purchase the books.
The one. It's a mouthful, but it exists.
Hey, I've said it 100 times, but yes, everybody, there is single is your superpower also, unbothered, and then we talked about New Mindset Who Dis. Okay, we have one more game, and then we're going to wrap up. Case Kenny answers Hinge prompts. Are you ready?
Oh. Answers Hinge prompts. All right, let's do it.
I know the best spot in town for.
Meatloaf.
Oh, please tell us where, because I actually love meatloaf, and so does my dad, so he'll be coming in.
Well, so I got to qualify it. Formerly, it was Ditka's in the Gold Coast, but it closed because of COVID. So I'm actually redoing my rankings for meatloaf. So I'll have to come back with an answer once I've decided. But formerly, it was always hands down Ditka's.
So you're a big meatloaf guy?
The best.
Chipotle meatloaf, like totally a guy.
It's in my Hinge profile. I don't really check Hinge. I'm not really on them, but I know it's there. It's like what your last meal would be was the prompt, and I put meatloaf.
Well, there is Ditka's over in Oak Brook, so if you're really feeling like that meatloaf, just head over.
No way. It's called the Gold Coast Special. It's a whole thing. Okay.
Oh my God. Okay, well, I'll have to ask my dad because he goes to Ditka's and he loves meatloaf, so I might have an answer for you.
The Gold Coast Special. It's so good.
Okay, the next one. I want someone who
is driven, I would say. I've learned a lot about what I need in a partner, and I need someone who has a passion outside of work and outside of being a couple. She's got to have, not saying she needs to have a business or a podcast, but she just wants to create something. That's really important to me. I've realized at some certain points it wasn't important, and I just realized compatibility wise I needed that. So that's what I would say. It's driven to create something, do something, make impact in some way. Nothing worse than the only things you can talk about are really just kind of mundane everyday topics. Do something that makes you nerdy or weird. I've gotten
share it.
I've gotten really back into doing magic tricks lately, because I used to be into it when I was in middle school, and I found a bunch of cards. I've even got them right here, and I just sit here doing magic tricks all day. And
wait, can you do a magic trick for me?
Yeah, you want to see? All right.
Yes, please. Okay. All right, Ryan, are you ready for this? I feel like you're gonna like this.
All right, hold on.
I did not think I was gonna get a magic trick from Case Kenny.
This is tricky because I always like to practice this one. All right, so I got a card here. It's a red card, and I'm gonna change it. You ready? Dude.
Whoa! Wait, you did it?
Yeah, of course. That was rough.
Podcast host, author, recording artist, magician. Just add it to the list.
I prefer illusionist, but magician's okay.
Illusionist. You're going to be the next Chris Angel out in Vegas in 10 years.
Fantastic.
Okay, that was great. Thank you so much for providing that entertainment for me. That was much needed on this Sunday. I spend most of my money on
watches.
I don't even own a watch. I'm always looking at my phone. But this is actually really embarrassing to admit. I'm not very good at telling time, on a regular watch. I've never been good at doing that.
I can see that. If you're not a watch person, and somehow you grew up going to school without like analog clocks, maybe they had like digital clocks in like school or something, like, yeah, you wouldn't have a whole lot of exposure to like hands on a so I get that.
Well, it's funny. So shout out
me just being very nice. Otherwise, yeah, that's weird.
You're like, you're an idiot. But shout out Miss Trina, my second grade teacher. She was the only one who had the digital clock. And I would like go over to her class and I'd like peep in, like to see like what time it is in the middle of the day. Like that's what I would have to do. Like I'm not joking.
Cheating.
Yeah, no, I was definitely cheating.
I think it's functional. It serves a purpose.
It does. Tells time. Well, for people like you, people like me, you can't tell time.
Yeah.
It would do nothing.
You're like, your watch is in Spanish. I don't understand what it's
in Chinese. So you'd be able to tell it, but not me.
There you go.
Weirdest gift you've ever given or received?
I dated this girl for a while, and she got me a bunch of chocolate pudding for a gift once. Because I don't really like sweets. I don't like cookies or cake or ice cream. It's weird. My palate's really boring, but I like pudding.
So you were like the really like cool kid at lunch who had the snack pack, and you never traded it.
Why would I trade it? It's all I want in life. Snack pack.
So you gotta. I don't know what your prompts are, but maybe you gotta update that.
I don't know.
I think that would draw some girls, and they'd ask, "Oh, pudding."
Pudding.
Interesting.
Okay.
Want to take me out to pudding?
Something, I know the best pudding spots in town. All right, something to think about.
Yes. Ditch the meatloaf, throw in the snack pack.
Yeah.
Well, Kay, seriously, I've had so much fun. I really loved, like I said, it's almost like a self-diagnosis for me. I feel like it's like a therapy session. I've learned so much. I love your podcast. So where can everybody follow you and keep up with you?
Well, thank you. Honestly, it was a great chat. It felt very natural. You're very talented at what you do. I've been on interviews where it's like they ask you a question, you answer the question. It's just like there's no flow. So kudos to you there.
Wow, thank you, Case. It seriously means so much because having you on this podcast was, like I a year ago when I started this podcast, I was obviously listening to your podcast all the time. And to think when you responded to me, I was like, I texted my sister, I was like, Case Kenny is coming on the podcast, and she was like, epic in all caps. And then we were just like talking about it, and like I almost like wanted to, like, seriously, like I can't thank you enough for your advice and for you to even respond to me. Like you have so many other things you can do in a day, so to take the time to come on really just shows how great of a person you are, truly.
Well, thank you. It's very nice of you. But yeah, I gave you 5 stars right back. So there you
Thank
go.
you.
I'll give you a rating and review on Apple Podcasts.
Oh, well, give me a real one, please. Right now, pull your phone out. No, I'm kidding.
I can do that too. I got it right here.
Oh my gosh, Case Kenny's gonna subscribe to Taylor to
Kenny.
you.
Maybe that'll carry more weight for you.
Oh, if you sign a Case Kenny, wow. And then when I'm on your podcast, we can promote it more, like we talked about.
Okay, well, I'll do that. I'll do that right after this. I'll give it some good words. I'll use some long syllable words. They add some weight to it.
Yes, if you don't mind also just adding, I have a laundry list of things for you to do, so really quickly. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
But just add, a quick mindfulness tip. I don't know, something. I don't know. Throw it in. But where can everyone follow you?
Oh, yeah. That was the question, wasn't it? It's just case.kenny on Instagram. Everything's there. New Mindset Who Dis, link in bio, newmindsetwhodis.com. It includes glamour shots of myself and then coffee cup quotes, which you might enjoy.
Yes, you certainly will. Thank you so much, Case.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's great.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Taylor to You podcast. Subscribe on Apple, Google, Stitcher, Spotify. Leave us a rating and review, and follow on Instagram and Facebook at T2U Podcast. And I really do encourage you to make this podcast tailored to you. So go ahead and visit T2Upodcast.com and submit questions you might have for me, for the guests, types of guests you want to see on, possibly you. Send it in. Topics of interest, really anything you want. And let's keep talking on Tuesdays.
Taylor to